Good afternoon. Thank you, Peter, very much. And thank you for putting this topic in the agenda to give us the opportunity to update on which are the measures we are taking in order to provide information on the risk management plan in accordance to the requirements of the new legislation. So as you know, the risk management plan, the concept was introduced in the legislation in 2005, but this new revision of the legislation will give the opportunity to enhance very much the scope and strengthen it. And as such, risk management plan will be required for all the new applications. It will be a more prospective tool, more dynamic. It will be more flexible in terms of risk proportionate. The PRAC will have a key role on it. There will be post-authorization safety and efficacy studies as a condition for marketing authorization. We will introduce the concept of the monitoring and effectiveness of risk communication. We will strengthen this. And finally, we will have a summary of the risk management plan, which will be made public. The legislation in Article 26 and 107 of both regulation and directive says that the member states and the agency will make public a summary of the risk management plan for all medicines which are authorized in the European Union. As such, and reflecting more how to best implement this, we held a workshop recently in May this year at the EMA, and the aims of this workshop was to discuss, to reflect with the stakeholders, and also considering the current experience in the member states about which should be the target audience of this information and of these documents, to already identify some key information about the content that it should be contained, to explore which should be the most suitable formats, so analyzing possible tools, the structure, the template, and to also put in the table key principles for the process, including particularly who would be responsible for each thing. So in this workshop, we consider the experience that we have in the different member states at the moment, particularly the experience of the United Kingdom. The MHRA has been running a pilot during 2009 and 2008 and 9, and they consider a few medicines for which they prepare with some kind of principles, some examples. They were shared during the workshop together with the experience by France, which has been publishing summaries of risk management plans since 2007. At the moment, they have more than 60, and they are published and available in their website. We also got the expectation for industry, for which there was a very good contribution from the different groups, and also contributed the patients, the consumers, and the healthcare professionals through participation of the PCWP, the Patient and Consumers Working Party, and the Healthcare Professionals Working Party. So the conclusions basically focus on these points: target audience, the content, the format, analyzing the specific tools that we will propose, and the process. Regarding the target audience, there was quite agreement that the summary should be written for the lay reader. What we understand by the lay reader is anyone without any kind of scientific or regulatory knowledge, but we have an interest on the medicine. And in particular, we would like to target more healthcare professionals, patients and consumers which may have an interest on the medicine. But we have, however, to acknowledge that there is a much wider interest and which cover industry, researchers, etc. Regarding the content, again, everyone was very much in the same line that we need to produce some kind of clear and concise, and at the end of the day, it's a summary. The risk, everyone was strong about that, needs to be put in the context of the benefits so that we inform, we give enough adequate background in the risk, but we don't create any kind of alarmism. Also, it was very much a strength, the use of adequate language, and as such, for example, we have received comments that concepts such as potential risk, missing information, can be really a challenge in terms of communication, particularly if we want to target the groups that we have identified. Also, it was very important that it has to be consistent and has to be complementary with the documents which are already published, such as the EPAR and the product information. But at the same time, we have to try to minimize overlapping and duplication. So the tools which were proposed, analyzing all the experience, is that already maintain what we have at the moment in the EPAR, when we have tabular summaries of the risk management plan and information related. But we discussed the possibility to develop a standalone document which should be the summary of the risk management plan. At the same time, we produce EPAR summaries for each product, and which is centrally authorized in this case. And we could update this template so that we can incorporate key information on the main safety issues and what measures we are going to introduce to mitigate this risk. So the standalone risk management plan summary, this is the proposed structure which was discussed in this workshop. We prepared some kind of a sample, the mock-up, and basically it will have to incorporate information about the disease epidemiology. It will have to introduce information about the benefit of the medicine. The main safety concerns will have to be identified, and the summary of the risk mitigation measures which will be introduced for each of the identified safety concerns, covering both routine measures and additional measures. In addition, we'll have to indicate clearly the planned post-authorization studies of both safety and efficacy, indicating clearly which are the conditions, if any, are conditions of the marketing authorization, and then allow for the document to be updated, introducing changes over time. As going back to the comment on the trying to avoid duplication, rather than trying to list all the information which will be available on the product information, it was proposed to use links in order to give complementary information and avoid the duplication. Regarding the IPAR summary, the objective to update it, as we said, is to communicate the safety concerns, the main safety concerns, and the measures which are going to be taken for each concern. But also, at the moment, the IPAR summary is like the main entry point for the information of each medicine in our website. In that sense, we would be able, through the risk management, through the IPAR summary, to direct any interested person who wants to know more about information on the risk management plan, as everything would be linked. So, considering the feedback we got from the stakeholders, industry, and also the existing experience in the member states, it comes to the point that the current structure of the IPAR summary already contains much of the information which is requested or expected to be as part of the risk management plan summary. As such, for example, information about the indication, information on how to use the medicine, about the benefits, and we will have to modify the information that we provide on the risk in order to comply with the expectations, and we will have to introduce an additional question, such as the one which is here in orange, which should be the additional measures and for which we will now systematically introduce whenever they are. And this will have links to the package leaflet. It has been also very much suggested to have links to a glossary of terms in order to facilitate the access of the information for the lay reader. And this is something that we are working and will be published very soon, a glossary in terms, so it will be possible to have it linked. And also links to the standalone risk management plan summary for those which want to get additional information. This is just an example how it would look in the IPAR summary, but for routine minimization measures, we will introduce a standard sentence, such as the one which appears here. And if we have additional measures, we will have an extra paragraph, as we have said, which will specify specifically which is the additional specific measures. Regarding the process, and particularly the timing first, the standalone summary of the risk management plan will be submitted by the applicant at the time of the initial application, and this will be evaluated as part of the risk management plan. As such, it will be finalized at the time of the opinion or recommendation by the PRAC and CHMP, and in parallel, as the current procedure in place, we will produce the IPAR summary and we will incorporate this information to the IPAR summary, and everything will be made public at the time of the Commission decision together with the IPAR. In case of updates of the risk management plan, we have a procedure in place already for the IPAR summaries. For the standalone document, the standalone summary, the section on major changes over time will incorporate all these changes, and everything will be updated at the time again of Commission decision. Regarding roles and responsibilities, we already proposed, and it was clear that the company will submit the summary or the first draft of the summary as part of the initial application. All the evaluation and the preparation will involve the EMA, the rapporteurs, the group of the assessors, in dialogue, of course, with the company as part of the process, of the evaluation process. And whenever necessary, we also have in place the system which will allow patients and healthcare professionals to have an input during the preparation. Industry will receive the document before it is published. Regarding translations, the IPAR summary already is available in all languages of the European Union, so it will be still available in all these languages. Regarding the standalone summary, it will be available in English. We explore the possibility whether this can be translated. Feedback received in particular for industry, whether they could collaborate on this, is very mixed, and I think it deserves further discussion. So this is the initial proposal, which will have to be considered later on, whether we can move a bit more from here. So this is the current status. A final decision on this proposal will be made very soon. And if it is decided to go for this summary, we will have to finalize the template based on the example that we have created. This template will be published together with the template of the risk management plan. And once we start operating, we'd like to provide as well some guidance, some kind of annotated template giving guidance on the level of information, etc., which is to provide. And finally, we expect that this implementation increase the visibility of the risk management plan on the website, of the information on the risk management plan on the website, will increase as well the awareness of the concept of risk management, but it will improve very much the information that we provide on information on the benefit and the risk of medicines. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Juan. I've got a feeling there may be quite a lot of questions because risk management planning and risk management and risk minimization generally stimulate a lot of discussion, and this is very new. Just while people are thinking, that for me had quite a centrally authorized product flavor. And my question is whether we have had significant input from the member states, and if not, what the process might be for that, because it may, EPAS is basically the language used for centrally authorized products, for example. Juan?
Yes, in fact, when we prepared a presentation, we wanted to give a little bit the feedback from the workshop, which was very much focused on centralized. But I think the legislative requirements apply to all medicines authorized, so it will apply to all member states. It also has to be considered in the context that the member states will have to produce summaries of summaries of the public assessment report for all medicines, and these are discussions which are being held at the moment at the level of the CMDH, which also will consider the inclusion of information on the risk management plan on this, but this is still being discussed. And again, for example, France is taking their own initiatives. UK will take again the pilot exercise that they will consider, and this will have to be put into the context of all the member states.
Can I spring it on Sabine? Sabine, you're the other. Would you be interested to make a comment? Because Netherlands has shown quite a lot of leadership in the risk management area, and this is quite interesting and potentially challenging from a member state perspective, I'd have thought, particularly for generic products, which will have a requirement for an RMP, but also a requirement for a public summary also. I don't know if you want to make any comment.
Well, thank you. It's challenging, as you say, and we are discussing it internally quite a lot, and also looking for some steer from other member states in order to decide what exactly we should do, especially in view of the what we are discussing, for example, is what is the additional value of the summary of a generic product if you already have the centralized product available in your own language. So those kind of issues we're still discussing. So unfortunately, we haven't taken a decision as yet.
And Mick, do you want to, from a UK perspective, or feel free?
Well, really similar thoughts to Sabine's. I guess one of the biggest questions I've got is about the relevance or appropriateness of a summary on a website for a generic, and what it will actually say when its use is well established and its safety is well established.
So the floor is open. If anybody has questions or more likely opinions, I would guess, please, right at the back, get the ball rolling.
Sorry, Grola, FP. I know it is a question. You had on your slide about the summary that perhaps they should be, I don't remember the wording, but read by patient, by the users to see if it was understandable. And it's something that we have discussed, at least in our company as well. We needed some kind of patient panel to read the summary before we provide the first draft to make sure it's understandable. And now I'm getting confused because there's no need for two panels, one before you get it and one during the evaluation of the authorities. So if you want to answer when should it be read by patients?
Yes, well, In principle, yes. The idea is that whatever document is published, it can be accessed, can be read by patients, and that's the intention, even if it is not exclusively intended for them. In particular, for example, when we are talking about the EPAR summaries, we have a process in-house in which before any of these document is published, this is read by patients, and the objective of this revision is to ensure that what is written can be understood by them. So the same principle could apply here, and that's the intention.
Can I bounce that question? Because your question was on timing and process. But one of the key conclusions of this workshop was that because it's not explicit in the legislation what the purpose of the public summary is. Is it transparency? Is it targeted at patients, healthcare professionals? Is it targeted at other industry so that you can sort of benchmark? I mean, it's just not clear. To me, it's implicit that it's for the lay reader, but it's certainly not explicit. But I just wondered from a patient perspective, David, you having digested your lunch? No. Any of the other patient representatives want to make any view on that, on the utility, the interest of patient groups, perhaps, of a summary of a risk management plan in the public domain? Maybe it'll come out later in the discussion. So, sorry, please go ahead if you wanted to. That would be helpful.
Thank you, Peter. I think it will just add on the transparency on the entire process of newly approved medicines, and I think it's something we need to communicate better about, and patient groups will understand and learn what is actually behind collecting signals, and that there is follow-up behind it that is taken seriously, so it will enhance their trust in the new products. So I'm very happy and looking forward to see them being realized.
Okay, so thank you, David. So largely about transparency and visibility to the ongoing monitoring. Any other questions or comments, please?
Hi, Vicky Edwards, EBE. Forgive me if I misunderstood you. I did walk in the sunshine at lunchtime. But am I to understand there are two summaries of the risk management plan, the standalone summary written by the company and the EPAR summary? And if so, why two documents? Oh, maybe I misunderstood.
This is still a proposal, it's not decided, but in principle there will be a summary of the risk management plan, a standalone summary of the risk management plan, but information on the risk management plan will also be introduced in the EPAR summary. It means there will be two levels containing information. At the beginning we discussed whether there is only a need for having one, but it's true that the information in the EPAR summary is very limited, and it's true that the information which is in this standalone document is much more comprehensive, is of added value because it's nowhere, and it allows for the reader to go to the EPAR summary, to have a very high-level overview of what is about the measures which are taken to minimize the identified risk, but it allows as well, as a reader, if you want to have additional and more comprehensive information, to go and see all the details. What was very clear during the workshop is that there is an added value of having this information published as it is anywhere else. It's in different pieces in the different tools that we have, but it's not in a specific centralized document.
So is the EPAR summary also going to be written in lay language?
Yes, the EPAR summary is
So it's a summary of the summary? The
No,
EPAR summary is a summary of the standalone summary?
No, because the EPAR summary, the scope of the EPAR summary is bigger. It's not only focused on the risk management plan. The EPAR summary is supposed to describe why the committee has concluded that the medicine should be approved, and is explaining the reasoning of the committee to give a positive benefit risk. So it goes beyond.
So it's part of them.
But I think perhaps the best way to think about it, I mean, let's be clear, this is we're discussing at an early stage. There has been a workshop, and Juan has given the output of the workshop, but making that more into concrete proposals, particularly process proposals. And I'm building on Gro's question a minute ago, what's the exact approval, who's signing it off, all this kind of stuff is not yet fully worked out. But I mean, the EPAR has got a specific legal basis. The risk management plan summary has got a specific legal basis. And the question is, what's the interplay between the two of it? And I think it is about layers of information giving more detail. Now, my understanding is that we won't have to, for transparency purposes, publish full risk management plans, except in the context of access to documents requests. So there's no plan at the moment to prospectively publish, not at the moment. So what will be in the public domain will be the EPAR, which is the comprehensive overview of the evaluation of the medicinal product. And then you can drill down to a summary of the key measures in the risk management plan below that. So I think your summary of a summary is not an unreasonable way of thinking about it, actually, that the EPAR on the risk management plan aspects will be a summary of the summary.
So if we think about this in the context of transparency, that doesn't sound very transparent because if you're a patient, you've got to know that the EPAR exists. So how are if it's a drill down document? I'm just thinking of the objectives of the legislation was all about simplification and reduction of duplication, administrative burden, and transparency, and we just seem to be hiding an additional document that we're having to produce.
I think that the main tool to implement this is this standalone summary. The problem is that, or the situation at the moment in our website, or the way we are presenting our information, is that when you as a patient, or when you come to our website, if you go for a product, the first you get is the EPAR summary. So in pure logic, what we want to give is access from this EPAR summary to this more comprehensive document. Otherwise, we will finalize, as you say, hiding a little bit the document because of the huge amount of information we have. So the EPAR summary will be in a way like a hook from where you will have just a statement, a very high-level statement giving this information. But if you want to know more about that, you can get access to it.
Okay, so you're pushing the EPAR. They don't need to know that there's such a thing as an EPAR.
That's the first thing you get when you access our website.
Okay, that sounds more sensible.
Other questions or comments, please?
Liz Swain, FPIR. Just a purely practical implementation question, not content. You mentioned that you were going to produce or publish guidance in the form of an annotated template, which sounds a helpful thing to do. Approximately when might we see that?
Again, this is quite controversial to go ahead with this proposal, which is not finalized. But the idea is that if we publish a template, it would be very nice to have a template with some kind of annotated information, giving more guidance. The intention is that the template, if we go ahead, will have to be in live at least for September before, so that we can start with the new legislation. But once we have more experience, we would like to come back with some kind of guidance. So hopefully by the end of this year, this is what we anticipate to have.
And I remember a presentation, there was somebody called Liz Swain gave a presentation at the EuroDIA meeting in March and highlighted that a template for risk management plans, an updated template, was an industry priority, and I think that is recognised. I'm going to put her on the spot because she's made the mistake of coming in at the critical moment. Stella Blackburn, do we know in terms of the work scheduling? Because actually I've given slightly contradictory information in this workshop. I think there was a presentation this morning which mentioned September for a template, but I think it was, I don't know if it was in a slide or said orally. Do we have any, are we committing at this stage, or what's the latest?
Well, providing all the medicines behave themselves during the Olympic period, and don't go jumping into sort of deep water or things like that, I'm intending working on the template over the sort of July, beginning of August. Now, Peter, I will throw it back to you because it depends how many thousands of committees that we need to get the template through before we can release it.
That sounded like a very clear commitment that we're working on it, and that in the early autumn a template should be available. Can I just say for the record, because industry has got good people that write risk management plans, the implementing measure from the Commission lays down the structure of a risk management plan, acknowledging what Florian was saying earlier about the potential for transitional period being discussed next Tuesday with the member states. Clearly, the template at the highest level is already there in the implementing measure. Now, clearly, an annotated template that that walks and holds the hand of the writer through is extremely added value. But that doesn't mean that you haven't got something to work with in the meantime. Stella, did you want to add to that?
Yes. If you remember going back years ago when we did the chapter in volume 9A, we kept it very, very high level and then subsequently introduced a template. Well, I think we've learnt from that. And if you note that the new GVP risk management has a lot more detail of what is wanted and really how to do it. The template will give, I hope, additional information, but I think already that there's enough information in there to be able to do a risk management plan in the new structure, hopefully.
Okay, so I think we're getting quite close to a commitment here. Sir, please.
Hi, Tim Stonehouse from EVE. I guess just again another procedural question in terms of the summary. What for a product with an existing RMP and existing MA? What would trigger the need for the summary to be submitted? Do we have any idea? Maybe I missed that in the presentation.
Yeah, Juan, your presentation said there will be guidance given on the implementation, sort of staggered implementation, but it didn't give any detail. I would guess that's because we haven't got good detail to give at this stage. Do you want to add anything to that?
These criteria will have to be more clearly defined.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, I think it'll be practical. Next major update or something like that. It's likely to be how we approach it, but obviously you'll need some clarity on this point, and I think that's well understood. Any final comments on RMP summaries? Except to say, Juan, thanks for presenting that, and thanks for sharing it early before it's all set in stone. So it sounds like there's general understanding that it's about transparency, particularly for a lay audience, that there are important issues about the interface with the EPAR. There are important issues for nationally authorised products and generics to be worked through. There's a desire to have an annotated template as soon as possible, and work in progress. So thanks very much indeed.